Mr. Frozen Dawn. Mr. Will, how are you?
Yeah.
How has your week been? You having a good one so far? I know we're only, Monday.
Monday, yeah, it's good. I mean, my Monday's been good, thank you. Yeah, good. Just been working a bit, playing some games and stuff. On a win streak in solo queue, so always feels good.
You're trying to get the grind in for a certain rank,
Yeah.
is it, before the end of the season?
Yeah, but it's dark and depressing, right? Solo queue is just a bleak and horrible experience for everyone involved. No one likes it. No one enjoys it. So.
Yeah, I've never really been much of a ranked person myself, to be honest. I've
Yeah,
always
wise.
used League as like a social gaming kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely wise.
So what rank are you going for?
I'm trying to get back into Diamond. So yeah, I was in Diamond in February, and then I decayed out. I didn't realize there was like a decay for not playing. So that sucked. And then I didn't play for about 4 months, and then came back into it and was like, oh no, I suck.
So my mechanics, what has happened?
Yeah, everything's just gone wrong. And I made mid, and these new champs have come out, and things have changed. I'm like, what's going wrong? So yeah, it was horrible. It still is horrible.
That is the thing with League, isn't it? It is that constantly changing beast.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you first find League of Legends? Because obviously that is a game that you've spent a lot of time with. You coached,
Yeah.
you've casted it. How did you first come across it?
I don't know. I guess it was 10 years ago when the game came out. And my friend Harry and Kieran, they discovered it on PC. I had like a laptop, I guess, like a really cheap laptop for school or whatever. And they were like, "Yeah, download this." So I did, and I was playing on a trackpad with like 5 FPS. I remember in team fights, like everything would freeze. It'd be like seconds in advance. It was horrible. So yeah, and they were just like, yeah. And I've always really liked team collab games, as in like multiplayer RTSs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a Monster Hunter I played, and then League was like the perfect sort of transition from that to PvP, I guess, which it is. So
Yeah, so you've always been a like MMOs and stuff as well. They've been your thing.
Yeah, I got into. The only MMO I've ever properly played is RS. I played WoW for like 3 or 4 months. But otherwise, yeah, only RS. And I played that in like, I guess, when I was 12 for like a bit. I don't know, like I didn't play much, and then I sort of like doubt. You know how everyone like comes back for like a month in RS, and then you leave for like a year, and then you come back and like, oh, I love it, and then you leave again. I basically did that from the age of 12 for like a month every year.
Just that constant checking in.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't like. It was just. I mean, I guess you sometimes just really fancy that kind of game. So yeah.
So you went from playing League into coaching first, or was it casting first? What was the journey? I guess.
So I played, and then I competed in a tournament called the NUAL, the National University Esports League. And so, for those who don't know, the NUAL is this massive this organization that runs these massive tournaments across all of the universities in the UK. And League of Legends, when I was at uni, was one of the games that they did, still is. And I played in that, competed in that, and they had commentators doing the games, and I spoke to some of them, and I loved the idea of it. So when I didn't make it to the finals, I sort of got in touch with the commentators and asked to be like an analyst on the analyst desk. And so I was actually an analyst with Vedius, who is currently casting Worlds. We were side by side doing our analysts, which was great fun. And a guy called Xscoundrel, who back then used to cast with Medic, who's now also at Worlds. So that was really cool. So it was great. It was a great environment to be around. And that's how I started, I guess, getting like on-camera experience. And then after that, it kind of snowballs. Once you've done a couple of gigs, especially live gigs, people start giving you more. So it sort of started with casting, really, and then coaching came a little bit later.
Yeah, you get your name out there, and people recognize it, and you've got the connections, I guess. It is a bit of who you know.
No, definitely, yeah. The industry, I mean, like tons of talent industries, it is a lot of it is who you know. Obviously, there is a big element of skill and individual ability, but like who you know and who invites you to events and who you're in touch with and who likes you is a massive part of it. And it always will. I mean, that's just part of life. But so it helped that I got these events and sort of made these connections and build from there. Eventually, you get the call to do like an I-Series, which is like Insomnia is like the biggest gaming festival in the
big
UK.
lands,
and once you get like those sort of invites, you get a lot of commentating experience, and then tons of on-camera stuff, and you have a big stage and there's a big crowd, and that's when I think that's when you sort of slowly transition from like I really enjoy doing this to casually to like, oh, okay, I got a foot very slightly in the door now, and not to you don't want to cast one iSeries and think you're a pro, but like that's sort of the
It's
first
a
step in like,
start
right,
of like.
iSeries and then do more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So big up iSeries.
So how many of those did you end up casting?
iSeries. My first one was I-50. Oh wait, no, I coached I-57. Um, oh lord, like I think I did every iSeries for like 2 years or 2.5 years maybe. I think because I had a problem where I was coaching and casting like at the same time, not literally at the same time, but like
Yeah.
I would be coaching a team and then like if I would say wasn't coaching a team, I'd be commentating the events that they weren't at or whatever.
Mm.
And so with iSeries, if my team was going to iSeries, then I would be competing with them, and if they weren't, I'd be casting the event, which was
So you're
quite
always
fun.
going, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was so. They're amazing events. I mean, esports events, gaming events are fantastic. I mean, everybody there's a gamer, everyone there's a nerd, and you all know that and appreciate that, and then you just talk about whatever you want, but they're like everyone in the room is as nerdy as you, and I love that. So yeah.
But how much like behind the scenes stuff do you do before like preparing for a cast, I guess? What's the
Oh god.
process that you go through? Obviously
Yeah.
a lot of it
Okay.
is like prior knowledge, but say it's two teams you've
Yeah.
never heard of before. What's your first?
Yeah. Okay. So two things I've never heard of. I mean, I guess frankly it would depend a little bit on how seriously I'm taking it, but like I assume I'm taking it seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I want to figure out is like what is the identity that makes like of each of these teams, what makes them them. So it might just be that they have like, I don't know, really strong solo carries or like solo laners or whatever, or maybe they have really good shot calling and bad mechanic. You sort of create like a little narrative and then try and you might establish that from talking to people, talking to them, watching VODs obviously to understand what the team is. Figure out their draft comes up into that as well. So figuring out what they like to pick and ban, who they like to pick and play around. It's a pretty easy way to get some like free points as well as like an analyst because I was color caster. So it's quite nice if you can sort of predict the draft quite well and see who they build around. So figuring out draft is a big one. I feel like I'm missing something quite obvious. I guess part of it is like understanding the current League of Legends meta and knowing how that fits in with the team that you're the teams that you're commentating. Oh yeah, and then I guess the final thing, and you usually discuss this with your like other broadcast team, but it's figuring out like a storyline or a narrative of the event. So if I've been called into cast the finals of two teams, and it's like one is the clear underdog and one is the favorites, and building a narrative. So is it these guys are going to 3-0 them, and every game they can get that feels like a victory, or is it these two are warring head to head, have been for 8 weeks, and that's really hype, and sort of build a narrative. And you can do that around players, you can do that around teams, around organizations. So you can say this is this one player's final opportunity, or this is this kid's only 17. This is his first ever LAN. Is this his rise to the LCS right here, right now? Is this how he goes straight up? And stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say that's probably a general view. I mean, exactly how you do it will be very down to the individual, but
A very personal thing, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And some people like prep last minute. I mean, I guess it's like with anything, or other people are just like constantly watching the games. And you can get away with a little bit of like leniency in some of those. Maybe you don't have to watch all of their games and stuff, but maybe if you really want to give like the best commentary you can, and you really want to do justice to the players, then having watched a ton of their games and understanding how they play is a really big component of that. So yeah.
Right. And what would you say the best bit of advice you've ever been given by a fellow caster is?
Oh wow. The best bit of advice I've been
See, I realised I sent you a list of questions and we've already got like 3 of them off.
Oh, it's not. I don't care. Don't you worry. Best bit of advice I've been given. Wow. Ooh. I've been given lots of good advice, but I'm trying to remember like one profound
Is there
thing
one bit that stands out? Yeah.
I mean, so I guess the transition. So when I just started casting, transitioning into like randomly doing it with no direction, and then and transitioning into like actually having an idea and focus. I think it was something that Scoundrel and Medic told me, and they said, which is something along the lines of like, you have to like you're commentating to the average player who is really bad. And they don't mean that to be insulting, but they mean like the average player hasn't played as many hours of League of Legends as the players have, as I have, as the other commentators. So if you can assume like a far lower level of knowledge, but you can explain that to them and tell that to them in a way that still interests them, like these complex strategies, and you can explain that away, then that's that's like a massive part of the battle. And that was quite not profound, but that really changed how I then explained, like, because back then it was like the lane swap meta, and like everyone was lane swapping, and explaining that was really hard to like alone, because you just can't. So figuring that out, and then I'll just explain to people how a power spike works and stuff like that, which back when the words were only just being used, that now obviously everyone knows what it means. But yeah, so I think that was perhaps the first proper transition I did when I went from like, oh wow, I really need to reevaluate how I commentate. So,
being able to explain like the 5.
Yeah. It's just being able to, just being able to like take that complicated thing and say it in a single sentence, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, fair enough." Even though there's like tons of knowledge behind it, just being able to summarize it
Condense
concisely, and they just know what it means, and they're like, "Oh, that's really interesting," and then being able to draw it into the story as well. So build on that. Yeah.
So did you always watch competitive league, or were you more of a casual?
I was a filthy casual. Yeah, 100%. I had so I played with a bunch of guys from school who I'm all still friends with. We still play League together now. And a couple of them watched like StarCraft 2 and other like esports. So I didn't. I had no idea what Twitch TV was. I had no idea what esports were. I'd never heard of StarCraft or anything like that. So when people were said, "Oh yeah, there's these streamers who are really good," and they're all and they drop these names like the Odd One and Dyrus and stuff, Frogger, and I was like, I have no idea who these people are. I don't really care. Why would I watch them when I can play myself? And it was only when I played against. I was an average player after 6 months, and I played against one of the, at the time, best UK players. It was a custom game. He just happened to be a friend of a friend, and he joined the lobby. And he played AP Nunu mid against me. And I was playing Malzahar, and he smashed the entire game. I mean, he was challenger. I was gold or something. I don't know. And like obviously he decimated the game, and I was like, wow. There is some skill gap between me and the best. Like obviously, I look fun now, and I mean that skill gap was like unbelievable. But when you've never played against good players, you've only ever played against your own circle. You never experience what like actual skill feels like, and that's when I started following the competitive scene. I think I went, wow, okay, Flimanek, I'm trash, and these guys are insane. I mean, if he isn't good, if he is not considered good in their world, and against me, I'll never beat. So yeah, that was that really. That's when I hit my.
It's all right, little minor earthquake in the UK. It's fine.
Yeah. I had a firework go off in my outside my window, like I don't know, an hour ago, and it filled my entire like window with this like. Honestly, I've never been so terrified in my life. I was not expecting it. Why would anyone set a firework off there? But anyway,
a few weeks early.
It's terrifying. Yeah, definitely. But so that's when I started watching competitive stuff, and I'm a big fan of CLG EU. Back in the day, they were like the big EU team to follow. They were sort of the best EU team at the time, and they had this wonderful play style of like slow, methodical grinding out the game, and it was it's perfection. So
the game was it Moscow 5, the like 65-minute game. They did the insane comeback.
They did the same. They did that against Moscow 5. They did it against was it Royal? Never give up. I can't remember. There was a Chinese team. They did it again as well. Yeah, and it went. There was a game that went like 77 minutes in the end, and you think like that is some tenacity to be playing all the way. Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, they were. Oh.
Yeah, last month I managed to have a 60-minute just normal game. I was like, when was the last time a game went this long?
The longest ever competitive League of Legends match is 7.5 hours on a technicality, because the players. This was COG EU, ironically.
Is this the season 2?
Yeah, they weren't allowed to leave the stage as per the rules of the tournament. The players during a game weren't allowed to leave the stage, and then they had a massive like the internet went down, and of course the rules were like you can't leave the game on stage. And for anyone who's never, I guess people who have never played League of Legends on stage, when pauses happen, like you're not allowed to talk about the game at all. You can't even talk about League of Legends. So you're talking about anything else. Apparently they were playing Hangman in the all chat, and like for 7.5 hours. I mean, obviously, they weren't playing the whole time, but that is
And that is where Silver Scrapes came from, isn't it?
That was Worlds
Season 2.
Yeah, it was the only. We are like, man, we have some Stockholm syndrome with that song. Like everyone loves it. Never think about it. Everyone loves that song because it was the only song played at the whole of Worlds Season 2. So we hear it, and it's at the song that reminds us of this like mind-numbing boredom, waiting 40 minutes for Game 3 to start. That's what that is. But it's such a hype track now.
Yeah, the memories over the year. Are there anything that stands out for you in particular when you've been watching?
When I've been watching, I mean, the XPK backdoor
Hmm.
was and still is an absolutely beautiful sight to behold. I actually I did a bunch of work with Nif, who was on the team that got XPK'd. I talked to him about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, it was awful." He just remembers like, "Oh, it was just so grim." And I mean, that was a gorgeous. That was a beautiful play. And I very very fondly remember of, like the rise of Faker in season 3. He turned up in NA, went straight to rank 1 in 3 weeks, and then dominating solo queue and all the streamers and all the streamers that I have been
Yeah.
hyped about. Like, oh wow, these guys are great. And then he just enters worlds, wins the whole thing. It's just unstoppable. It's this unkillable demon king. Oh yeah. So the rise of Faker, I think, is probably the most like, I guess, surprised and like hyped I've ever been over over a long period of time with League. Yeah,
Because they
it's
went
beautiful.
basically a year undefeated in international
Pretty
tournaments,
much.
didn't they?
Yeah, pretty much. It was something like, I mean, I know the tournament straight after they didn't lose a single game, which was the LCK, well, OGN back then. But like, yeah, the Worlds, they barely lost a game, and it was just, I mean, it was the most large skill gap, right, between
Yeah.
any team and anyone else, other than maybe Samsung White or whatever. But um, still, yeah, that was beautiful. Faker was just, yeah, still is just, the pinnacle, the pinnacle of skill. Beautiful.
And what's your main? What is your champ?
Main
Your
role or champ?
go-to?
Oh,
Your main champ to go to right now?
historically in Nivea, for sure.
Okay.
Um, I've always been a mid lane ever since I got one shot by Malzahar. About a month into the game, I got one shot by Malzahar, and I was like, "That's it. I'm a mid lane. That champion is broken." Which apparently at the time he actually was, although he never has been since. But yeah, and I just love Anivia. I mean, it's probably inspired by Froggen.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just watching her dominate lanes and like scale and be this amazing team fight presence. Yeah, so Nivea, and then right now probably Oriana. Anivia's still fine. It's just that Ori, I don't know, I guess feels more impactful. You can control the lane better. So yeah, Ori she just feels so much fun to use, especially with Phase Rush. She's just really fun to use. So I'm a
You've
big
got
fan
that
of
little
Oriana.
bit more mobility.
Yeah, definitely. You just got more control, I think, of like the state of the lane. You have more control of, and then obviously, it just feels great to play. And then when you land those like 5-man shockwaves, you're like, oh look, I did a thing. We win the game. I did my job. So yeah, I love that.
So transitioning from a caster to a coach, how did that kind of come around, and how did it sort of work?
So I applied for a team, and someone else got the spot. And then this was the Newell Super Team back in the first iteration of the UK Premiership. So there's like 8 teams competing over 2 months. And during the mid-season break, the team was doing really bad, and they wanted to revamp all the players. And I applied to be one of the mid laners because I was still playing in the Newell. And they took a guy called Rayan Mort over me, who I'm friends with him now still, but I was salty as hell. And they were like, "Why don't you come and coach the team instead?" And I was like, "Yeah." And after like a couple of days of being salty, I was like, actually, yeah, I reckon I can offer more to this team coaching than I can being salty. We actually did really well, and after that, I got an offer to coach a team called Manolite, which was a paid coaching gig because the Newell wasn't, and obviously, and yeah, we won the regular season in the UK, and then we came second in the finals, and then we came second at iSeries that same 4 months later with the same team, and that was kind of it. I mean, that was I learned a metric ton from the players that I was coaching, and the manager I had, a guy called Rob. And yeah, I got the buzz for that competitive feel, and it was so nice to be playing at a level or competing at a level like well higher than I'd been used to before, and like these players were way better than me. So like whereas the Newell team, like I would have been a fine mid laner.
Yeah.
The players, I mean, in fact, the mid laner was Larson, who is currently also at Worlds.
Yeah.
So like like Larson was my mid, and and obviously he wasn't world class then, but he is now. But like yeah, so it was that kind of level of play and that transition to that tier that really gave me the buzz for coaching, and it's a very different vibe to commentating. I mean, commentating has it's quite middling. I mean, it has medium highs and medium lows. I mean, I guess once you're at like the LEC level, it's probably got higher highs and far lower lows, but sort of middling. Whereas coaching, I mean, if you lose, you feel like the worst human on earth, and then if you win, you feel like the best human on earth. And that is, like, that's just the thrill of winning. And coaching for me gave me that adrenaline kick of watching your players play like the 5th game in a best of 5, or In fact, for our last game of the Premiership, I actually was in Rome. I couldn't be there to coach the team, and so I was just refreshing my phone because I had terrible signal. I was using, I don't know, I guess like data in Rome.
Yeah.
And it was awful. This was like 4 years ago anyway, and I couldn't get. I was just like the game was just like reloading, and then there was this we're posturing mid, and then like my thing cuts off, and it's just as I see the TP get channeled, and I'm like, we're teleporting. Is this good? Is this good? Why is Rifty teleporting? I was like, this is fine. This is fine. And then I skipped to the end. Like, it skipped like a minute later. We're running them down. And I'm like, yes! It was the best feeling. I can't tell you. That's actually, would you believe, that's so, the manager recorded that last minute and a half of internal comms, like the team's comms, and they put that on YouTube, and it's wonderful. So that was a buzz. So yeah, winning is, competing is just a wonderful feeling.
But as a coach, what was your role? Because obviously you've said the players are more skillful than you.
Yeah, gotcha.
How is it, like, I guess, telling people that are better at the game than you what to do in the game? I guess is one concept.
Yeah. So fundamentally, it can come across multiple ways, right? So like, I mean, the first thing is you can work and improve the team as a whole. You can work on the team-wide communication, team-wide tactics, team-wide strategy, team-wide vision control, how to set up for a dragon. And like, the players are absolutely better than me at the game, but that doesn't mean that they know exactly how to execute a particular rotation or movement or whatever better than I do, because my job is to learn that and then teach it to them, right? So there's that. Another thing is that players often generate bad habits from solo queue, and breaking them out of that into a team environment is really good. So, for example, Larson used to always ward selfishly for mid lane. Makes sense for solo queue. He would ward very selfishly, and it worked very well for him in solo queue. You know, he was like 800 LP challenger, but that ward that he used to put down in the side lanes of mid weren't very helpful then to the team, because it essentially blocked, like, the jungler didn't get any vision of river. So we then had to do that, for example, as well as like the systematic execution of plays, like how exactly to dive bot lane, how to time camps, how to do this and things like that, working on comms, because players, solo queue players come together and have no idea how to communicate at all. Like, obviously, why would they?
And pings and
teaching them just have, and teaching them how to concisely say something, habits, so in team fights, one of the best things you can do, even if you have nothing else to say, is just call the target that you are focusing. If you're AD carry and Renekton's on you, to say Renekton. You're not telling anyone to do anything. You're just telling everybody that you're on Renekton, right? That's all that, and that's just almost all you need to give, and little things like that, and that's like the basics, and then you build up. And
that is what you hear a lot in the like team comms. You literally just hear a champion's name spammed by one player,
because they're basically saying like what they're. Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny if you listen to like CS:GO pro comms, it's like gorgeous, and then you listen to League of Legends pro comms, and it's terrible. But in team fights are too chaotic, right? If you froze it and then said to each player like what's going on, by the time they explained to you what was, like, they wouldn't be able to tell each other. They wouldn't know. So you just call out targets, you call out flanks. You remind each other to keep peeling, or you're pushing forward, front to backing, you're flanking, TPing in. What's the play? Like, hopefully you've pre-discussed with your coach, like, if they've got like a burst comp and you've got like a really slow fight comp, like you've got sort of Senna and things like this that you can sort of kite back and keep the fight going on for a long time. You want to bait out their burst, wait, keep pushing back in. And it's someone's job is to say, hey, keep going back. Okay, no, we can pull the trigger and stuff like that. Cool. So yeah, those kind of comms, which is really fun. I mean, if teams ever like play Clash or play ranked teams back when they were a thing, or Newell teams or low teams, like these are the really early on communication things that you can just do to sort of keep your team informed. Just say that, whenever your laner leaves, just tell them whatever you're doing. Be like, hi, I'm walking towards bot. You're not saying you're ganking bot. You're not promising anything. You're just, hey, I'm walking towards bot lane. Maybe your jungler goes, no, don't do that. They have like 3 wards. And you're like, oh, but it's constantly, constantly talking. I think the other primary role of a coach, I guess, is like scouting your opponents and coming up with strategy, figuring out draft. So like, players will want to play things that are actually they suck at, or that don't work with a comp. That's really common. Like ego champs, right? Like, you want to play Zed because you look flashy on him, but you realize it's just diabolical. Or really good in solo queue and really bad in a team. So figuring out team comp, working through scrims, trying to identify team weaknesses and build from there. Team tactics, and then obviously when it comes to actually competing, assessing your opponents, trying to figure out how you're going to beat them, what you're going to come up with, what strategies do they use, how can you deal with them, where do you want to put your resources, all those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And coaches do draft on stage as well, so you're there literally for the draft, which is fun. That weird little like mini chess game in the first 3 minutes of League of Legends.
Have you got a like moment where you really think you outpicked someone in a draft?
Yeah, loads. Yeah. Oh, it's a great feeling because the coaches shake hands. They come to the middle of the stage and they shake hands, and that feeling when you look the guy in the eye and you're like, you're getting slapped. Like this is you're done. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember I remember my failures more than my successes, which maybe tells you something about my life. But I remember being out drafted, going, what have I missed here? Like, how do we keep, or whatever? And just maybe it's something as simple as like a player doesn't recognize the strength of a pick, or we didn't realize this would be such a huge threat for as long as it would be, and then by the time we did, game was over. So yeah, I definitely had like moments where I've gone, oh, this is a fantastic draft, or like, oh, this is like, it's when you see the players do a play that you've practiced in scrims, and then they do it, and you're like, oh, yay! You know that like you've worked on that, and then it's not going to happen every game. You can't always just copy paste. I mean, maybe level ones you can, but even then, but you see this dive happen, and you're like, oh, yes, they did it. They recognized it. They put the vision in a minute before. They all reset. They came back. Like, oh, it's like, yes. And you get, I don't know, that's the best thing as a coach. And when seeing your players win, I mean, it's wonderful. Everyone's happy and cheering, and they've just won. I mean, that's their careers or their goals or their dreams. Potentially. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I love that.
What did you do if you had lost a game in a best of 3, say? How do you turn like the mood around? Because obviously after a loss, a lot of the time it's very deflating, and I guess thinking we've got to now win 2 games in a row. What did you do to kind of change a player's mindset?
For me, so I guess it would depend a little bit on the players, but generally speaking, I would brush it off. I mean, it doesn't matter. One game is not the series. Focus on what we need to do to win the game. So I'd just be like, all right, cool, we lost. I try and do a really quick summary, just in case there was like something we can't deal with. Like, was it draft? Was it just oh, hey, look, we all fell behind in late mechanics and we sort of got snowballed from there, or was it like this one play? And then isolate that instant. Make sure it's isolated. Get the players to reset their mindsets, and then just go into game 2. And the best way to focus people on game 2 is just immediately start talking about the strategy. Like, are we changing draft? Are we sticking with our same plan? And reiterate them of their like fundamentals. I think it's really easy when you start losing that you forget the basics, and not the basics as in like how to farm, but as in like the sort of team play basics that you work on, because you start maybe getting a little bit on tilt or something. So just remind everybody of their fundamentals, and
just communications can die down, I guess, after a loss as well. Like no one really feels like chatting, and
absolutely, yeah, 100%. And keeping the spirit alive and reminding people why they're there. And often, rarely finals are even. And that's the one thing I have noticed is like very often we either go in expecting to smash them, or we go in getting expected to be smashed. And it sounds bad because you always want to assume that people go in with the best mindset, but that's just simply not the case. Like, if you know that half their players are like LCS, and you're just sort of some UK scene or barely European scene team, like, you're going to get rolled. And all the players want to do is have a good performance to kind of be recognized. And then, whereas if you're against a really bad team and you lose the first game, it's just really embarrassing, and you just want to, oh god, and then the doubt starts creeping in, and it's just cleansing that and getting on top of it. And part of that comes into like pre-prep of how the team perceives the series. So if you can try and keep the mindset at the same time, which is like, hey, look, we might, it's first game of the series, we might lose the first one. I mean, they might bring out something or another. We're not warmed up. We're not in the right mindset. Like, that you can always like kind of like create like gimmicks with your own team and be like, hey, look, we always lose the first game, guys, don't we? It's like, oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we were just inting, lol, and then
it's easier to move on. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we saw some pretty crazy mid-series adaptations over the weekend in the quarterfinals. Yeah. The Fnatic top one. That was quite a turnaround.
Yeah. It's painful, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want. Oh, so sad. I mean, mid-series adapting is hard. Like, I mean, sometimes if it's lost anyway, I mean, you have bans. You can ban the champions, but like if it's lost anyway, you can just Hail Mary. But Hail Marying a game away is very hard to do. Other times, it's identifying why you lost in the heat of the moment. I mean, that's the problem. It's like, is it the pick, or is it just like they were just on top of you? I remember in the series we were playing against Maxwell. Maxwell was the Kadra was the mid laner, Maxwell was the jungler. I can't remember who the other three were. There was Heaver and someone else. Anyway, and we didn't realize Nidalee was super strong in that current patch. She had just been nerfed, and my jungler was determined to think that she was bad, and I hadn't seen enough or studied enough to know if she was good again. They pick her first game, we get rolled. They pick her second game, we get rolled, and we're like, is it Nidalee? And the team was like, no, it's not Nidalee. And I'm like, are we sure? And they're like, yeah, it's not Nidalee, it's just this. And I'm like, okay, fine, we leave her open. And then 3 games in a row, we lose Nidalee. And
Right.
I'm talking to Max Store on the train home, or like the next day or whatever. And I'm like, oh, hey, how do you think about the series? He's like, the fact that you left Nidalee open 3 games in a row was GG. Like, I could have been a terrible jungler and I still would have won that champion's broken. And I was like, like that's his view. And he probably, they were favorites to win the series. They had, they brought in LCS talent to win the series. But like, it was, it's stuff like that you just can't, I mean, if we'd banned it out, we probably still would have lost, but we would have had a lot better chance if we'd been on top of that. So
just be able to recognize that sort of the importance of certain picks.
Yeah, and is it just you don't know how to deal with it, or is it counterable? Is it just OP in the meta and you haven't realized stuff like that? But it's hard to find that out in a series, because usually you want to watch like the VODs and the replay and try and ascertain, hey, like, how did bot lane go? Did you just miss every skill shot for the first 5 minutes and then go, oh, they were being out traded, it's impossible to win? Or is it actually the case that every time you traded, they just clapped you because they're playing a far better bot lane and you haven't realized? So yeah, lots of stuff to think about.
Thoughts on Worlds so far? You've been keeping up with most of it. There's obviously a lot of games to watch and a lot of time.
I've been keeping up. Oh yeah, it's loads of time. But people usually watch their favorites, right? I mean, for me, Worlds is going. I mean, the Fnatic series was surprising, and I'm really proud of them. Obviously, it would have been amazing to see them win, but I think 2-3 against a team of that caliber is fantastic. So like, they should be proud of themselves. It's just a real shame. As soon as you go 2-0 up, everyone expects you to win. Because
they said, first reverse sweep at Worlds ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so yeah. I'm really proud of Rogue, because obviously Larson I used to coach, and he's their mid, and they had a horrible group, and I think all things considered, they actually did very well. Which is, it's just a shame how the groups fell. NA is a meme, obviously. Everyone knows that. They suck, which is fantastic.
It's amazing that it still keeps going, though. It's
the money in NA is unbelievable. Yeah, but there's some bad things in the North American scene. I mean, there's just bad practices. I mean, I remember I think Thorin, that tweeted something along the lines of like, in North America, the LCS teams won't scrim their sister teams in fear that their sister teams will get better than them and take their jobs, which is
not what you want.
Such a horrendous mindset. And like, okay, it makes sense, it's practical, but like, it's such a terrible mindset, because then you're just, you're not getting better. You get 0-6, or 2-3 threes and then 0-6, and it's just like, it's God, it's bleak. So yeah, and then I think G2 have a good chance to win it, really. In theory, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't. Like, obviously, they beat the weaker of the Korean teams, but it was also such a stomping that it doesn't imply that they're going to struggle necessarily against the next.
Yeah, it's very hard to know, though, isn't it?
Right. Of course, yeah. It's very hard to know.
But I guess with Fnatic putting up such a good fight against top, it does, if they get through to that final, it does obviously put them in good stead.
It does, yeah.
If the right G2 turn up.
Right? Yeah, the right G2 turn up, I know. I think they will. I think they will. They seem to be in really good spirits. I was talking to a few of my friends while we were watching it, like, we were watching it just on Discord or whatever. And they just seem so happy to be competing, right? Like, they're always just like laughing and chatting, and like, I think it was like Yankos, like, he missed his ult and then flashed to auto attack, but Silas had already, like, his own team Silas had already like landed the Q to get the kill, and he just sat there laughing, and I'm like, it's like game 1 of the World Quarterfinals, and you just wasted flash ult because you ulted early, and like, you're there just like, man, and the fact that you're giggling about this is but that's spectacular. I think that is that's a very powerful mindset. A kind of player that can just be laughing away at their own mistakes in such a high stakes tournament. I mean, that's wonderful, and I think that's G2's strength. I think.
It's kind of like Bwippo. Whenever you see him on a cam, just
Yeah,
wide
yeah.
Bwippo face, and
He's just like,
oh,
woo! I love playing League of Legends. You're like, how? How could you still love this game? But like, it's amazing. Yeah, they're very very positive team, very positive energy. I mean, it's fantastic. They're fantastic to watch. And yeah, God, if I mean EU winning Worlds would be the dream. I would love that.
been so close.
Yeah. Well, Fnatic 2018 wasn't it? G2 last year.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
Yeah, I think
Was
so.
it even?
I
Yeah.
don't remember a huge amount about last year's World actually, but
I'm having a mind blank, but yeah, I think so. It's just we're close. We're close, and it's close enough. We just the big W. Oh, be great.
especially like imagine if it had been Fnatic though, the first and then the 10th. That would have been such a.
That would have been amazing. That would have been That would have been a nice storyline. I mean, a G2 Fnatic final would have been but all regions want their double region finals because it's such. I mean, that's such competition, right? I mean, there's nothing more. I mean, losing LCS, like losing the finals of your own regional league, is one thing, but
losing Worlds to another team.
Oh, that you get to see the next day. You have to see them, right? And like every time they get introduced on stream, they're the world champions. You know what I mean? Like, and you're there like salty, just come on G2, let's go.
What are your thoughts though? What are we going to see in the final, and what's your finals prediction and the score?
Oh, I think G2. I think G2 will get into finals. It would be 3-2. Like, there's no way. There's no teams 3-0ing anyone. Hopefully, but yeah, I imagine. I'm not sure who will come out of the other side of the bracket. I will be honest. I mean, Top didn't look that good against Fnatic, but then imagine Fnatic playing out their minds. I'm not sure. And then Suning, I don't know how good they are relative to Top. So I don't know, like on that side of the bracket at all. I don't really follow the LPL very much. My friend of mine commentates the LPL, so I already pretty free to ask him. But he's. I mean, I just haven't. So but I think G2 will beat Damwon. Damwon? Yeah, Damwon. Not DRX, it'd be DRX. And then that's the dream.
You reckon?
And then finals EU versus China, which will be terrifying. I'm not sure my heart will be able to deal with it, but I'll be here. I'll probably have to like drink or something. I don't know. Just to get through.
I'm pretty sure it's like 10 in the morning.
That's acceptable. It'll be a sad day. It's fine. Crying. Oh dear.
Did you ever have any instances when you were coaching where suddenly a patch would be released and the tournament would be like a week out, and you'd have to suddenly try and rapidly work everything out?
Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah. God. Yeah. So early on, the tournament realm was exclusively owned by like Riot events. So like actual Riot events, and usually getting the tournament realm was really hard. And the tournament realm was always on the patch before the live. Well, not always, but like a week or two behind. So typically, whereas normally we would play on live, but like a patch would go out on a Tuesday, and our match would be on a Wednesday. That was horrible. So we would try our best to get a scrim in at least on the day, so we had some overlap. But sometimes it wasn't possible. And yeah, I don't remember any specifics honestly, but I do remember.
I remember that
feeling. Yeah, I remember that feeling of just like, okay, cool. They've just nerfed like the 2 champs that we've been winning on for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and like they've buffed its items. So I don't know what that means. But the only advantage is like neither does your opponent, right? I mean, they could get lucky. Like, there's definitely the option they go, oh, I theorize that this champ is going to be really OP on this patch, and then they get it. But most of the time it's kind of okay. And also, you do have 5 very high elo players who have very high elo friends, and you can talk to other coaches who you aren't competing with. And if you have the contacts, you can even talk to like LCS coaches or back then LEC coaches and be like, hey, look, we have a match coming up the day after the patch. Like, just could you summarize your thoughts, or like, what do you think? Like, and if they're like, oh yeah, God no, this champion is now completely useless. You're like, oh great, good to know. Whereas usually it's tweaks, and they fall off because of the tweaks. But back when I started, it was massive. They'd gut items. They'd add like 20 AD to Blade of the Roman King. You'd be like, wait, what junglers can use Blade? Like, anyone? But without that's it. That's the only thing we're playing. And stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's. I mean, League of Legends is all about. or at least competitive League of Legends, at least, it's all about like adapting to the change. I mean, that's what keeps the game so fresh, right? It's like they cycle the meta. I guess they try and cycle the meta yearly, but like obviously, sometimes there's like mini shifts, especially like if you boil it down to like items and lanes and champs. But and changing that as a team is quite amazing. Like you look at the comps that you played at the first start of the season, and 2 months later, the comps you're playing then, and you might be like, oh yeah, God, it's amazing that Nidalee's still OP. Or you might be like, wow, God, you know, you're like now it's tank junglers, and back then it was farm junglers or whatever. And once like the LEC starts, so often smaller tournaments start before them. And once the LEC starts, you can then learn from them, which is very, very helpful because you can just
Pick
go,
up
right,
their
okay,
strats.
cool. We now have all of these pros playing. We can watch it and be like, and it's like when the LCK, LPL and stuff are on, you can actually go, right, which teams play like we do, and then try and figure that out. Because obviously some teams just don't play your style, but when they do, you can figure out how they move and how many resources they put to lanes and stuff. That's really fun.
Well, we've been talking about the League for 40 minutes or so. I feel like we should chat about RuneScape, your other love, I guess.
My other love, yeah. I have 2 loves: League of Legends and RuneScape. What a bleak life. Yeah, no, sure. Yeah. Sure.
So
Various different games.
So I assume you kind of came across it the same way you came across League, playing with friends.
Yeah, a guy called Paul. Actually, I was in school. I was in IT class, and he was like telling me about games he played, and he was like, "Yeah, I play RuneScape," and I was like, "Right, cool. What is it?" And he's like, "You go around, and you mine, and you make yourself some armor, and you can pull swords out of stones," which sounded great. So I was like, "Yeah, sign me up. That's what I want." He gave me a full iron set and showed me around Varrock, and I sort of played a bit, and then stopped playing a bit, and played a bit more, and so on. Yeah, and that was it. I mean, it was free, which was a really big bonus because obviously everyone else was playing loads of people playing World of Warcraft at the time, and I didn't want to spend £10 on a World of Warcraft subscription. And I also, WoW had a problem where like you'd sign up to a server and then you couldn't play with your friends on other servers.
You had to make sure you're on the right one.
Alliance split. Yeah. And like I have a bunch of friends who play WoW and still do, and they're all still on different servers, which now I understand is not a problem, but back then I mean, it was. So I could never pick a friend to play on WoW with. So RuneScape it solved my problems, and yeah, it was simple enough game, right? And the sound you made when you hit someone with a sword was donk. It was fantastic. Just like seeing numbers go up. You're like, oh yes, all the endorphin hits.
The little level ups, and just I think the thing about RuneScape, like from what I remember, like when I was playing in school, is you just set yourself a little goal by the end of the evening. I want 40 money or whatever.
Yeah,
just tick it off your list. It's like onto the next thing.
Yeah.
It's changed a bit over the years, though.
RS, 19-year-old game. I mean, yeah. God, I'd hope so.
Did you play like throughout the sort of obviously evolution of combat when the ability-based combat came in from the standard point and click? Were you playing sort of throughout that, or did you take a bit of a break?
Yeah, I was. I can't remember what year that was, but I remember being like, I wasn't. I still am actually really bad at change in games. Like if a champion gets reworked, I don't understand it. And in RuneScape, I figure out my system, and like if I'm doing a Telos rotation and then I have to change it by like one keybind, I don't like it. I have to I'm really bad at that. It's just something I really suck at. So the evolution of combat was so many skills to learn or abilities to learn, and it was But I saw the potential in it, and I don't know why. I always loved tanking. I would go to like Grador when I was like 13 years old with like, I don't know, a dragon longsword or an abbey whip, just attacking, doing 0 damage, and then splitting the loot with loot share. It was fantastic. What an experience. But I always admired the tank. I was always like, wow, that guy's a hero. It's standing like back then people were tanking like full Guthans with the war spin for the healing, and they'd have like unicorns or whatever, and people would sometimes drop them food. I was like, that's that player right there. He's the man, the guy we're all just doing nothing, and he's so when the evolution of combat released defensive abilities, I was like, oh, tanking's a thing. I can use like barricade, and I can create like a defensive rotation for myself. I wasn't using those terms, but I was like, this is really exciting. Like, I can tank forever. And that's something I thought was really cool. I was like, oh, look, I can take my friends to whatever the boss at the time was or whatever, and then go, hey, look, I can be the tank. I'll have my Elysian Spirit Shield on or whatever. Because back then I thought the Elysian would have been still good, but they obviously ruined it. But back then, before EOC, Elysian was amazing. And I thought it'd be so awesome to be there, like living for like ever, using no food, allowing my friends to do damage and kill his boss. So yeah, I liked the concept of the EOC. I thought, yeah, it's great. Obviously, I understand that it like was incredibly polarizing. But for me, I was just like, cool, this is just the next step of the game, and I like the game, so
Yeah,
here I am.
there's no problem with the game evolving, I guess, and
Yeah,
it was trying
I
to
mean, mm,
I guess the thing is, before it was completely different to all the other MMOs, and maybe having abilities added into it made it seem a little bit, copycat in some ways.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right to an extent. I think also there's nothing wrong with evolving a game, but there is something wrong with changing its core identity. And that I think is what happened, or what certain RS players felt happened. And like some people went, "Oh, this is great. It's got the identity of all the quests and all the skilling stuff, but the combat identity has shifted." I think a lot of people were like, they didn't want that to happen, and it was a very drastic change. And I think it was, well, I don't know. I mean, for me, it was a good change. I don't think I'd still be playing RS if it
If
didn't
it was
have if
still
it was still
just
old school, because yeah, but I can't manually clicking my changes and not being able to keybind them. I don't like, and stuff. It's just other the graphical updates and things. Just personal preference. So I have nothing against old school players, and I think it's really dumb that RS3 competes against old school. I think they have both good games, and they also, it's the same company, so the same input. Like, so both
yeah.
people want each other to do well, so that both pillars support the building, as opposed to wanting to ruin the other, which just seems dumb to me. But yeah.
Yeah, it is a very strange sort of competition between the two of them. Although
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a vocal minority that do like to just rag on RS3, and they
Yeah.
haven't touched it since it launched. Because obviously, when EOC launched, there was no revolution or anything like that.
Was it not?
Yeah,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
launched without revolution, so I can see the people really
Yeah.
didn't like having to manually click every
I
single
respect that.
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to my understanding, I don't remember this. 'Cause I was too like newbie or naive. But to my understanding, it wasn't released like finished, the
It doesn't
EOC, and I
seem
think
like it,
that was
no.
the problem. I think people like, I've seen tweets and stuff from people
Yeah.
who I think know, and they sort of have said like, yeah, it just wasn't released finished, and you can't create such a drastic change in a game without
Properly.
without nailing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it has to be clean, right?
Well, you got to balance it.
Yeah, there's also that. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what the balance problems were, but yeah, I imagine there were some. Yeah.
So, have you got a favorite skill to training game, or are you pretty
Oh.
much just PVM?
Yeah, so I only PVM, but my first skill, my first 99 was fishing, purely because one, Catherby's really pretty. Two, the people I was around was like, yeah, fishing gets you to like, back then it was only sharks, so you can only fish. Sharks was like the end game fishing, and they were like, if you go from 76 to 99 fishing with sharks, you make like 120 mil, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have 120 mil. Little did I know it was like 20,000 XP an hour, which when you have to get 13 million XP is a lot of hours. But yes, so that was my first. I still have the untrimmed cape, actually. I keep it, which is
Nice.
crisp. So yeah, so fishing, I just found peaceful. I mean, you're just sitting there fishing, and it's really boring. But Slayer was always the skill I had the most fun training, obviously, because it's actually interactive. And then thanks to a player called Squawkus, prayer was my favorite skill in terms of all my bonus XP, and it's the 99 I most loved and the 120 I most love. And I just know how useful it was, because having 70 prayer meant you could bless gravestones. So if someone died, their gravestone, they would just decay after like 3 minutes, and they'd lose all their stuff. But if you blessed it, it was an hour. And if you had 70 prayer and you went on Gobble's 101 trips with the boys, you could bless the gravestones of the dead, and they'd love you forever. And I was like, yes, I'm so useful. So I put in all my money into getting 70 prayer for some reason, just so I could be that useful person. Yeah.
Similar to the whole tanking thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just
exactly
be
the
able to
same.
support everybody.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Being able to just, I know it's a team. Well, I see it, team effort, and if I can do my part to teach people and help people and make things easier, and even now intercept people and heal other people and sort of take people and teach them stuff, then yeah, it's good fun. I like that.
And what is the favorite boss? Is it one of these group ones? Because obviously we know you like your team-based stuff, or is it Telos?
Yeah, so I spent I did tons of AOD when I moved from, I hated Raxi, and I moved from Raxi to AOD and did quite a lot of AOD kills. But the community around AOD is horrible. Not everyone literally, but like it's a really really negative experience, I think, for most players. Just it's really elitist, and on top of that, like there's no room for errors or mistakes because it's just mad about efficiency, and I understand why, and I understand why. I mean, I'm in the FCs with the high skill with the requirements, and I understand why they're there, and I want them there because I don't want to be with bad people when I'm deliberately just trying to do very fast
When
animation.
that is what you're focused on, yeah.
Yeah, but the environment around it is horrible. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. So AOD would be a boss I love, but yeah. And then otherwise, Telos in terms of it's the boss that it's the only boss in the game that like constantly challenges you. I think. I mean, AOD obviously once you can survive a kill, you learn to minion tank a kill, and then once you can minion tank a kill, you learn to minion tank a kill with Ripper Demon, and then once you can do it with a Ripper Demon, you basically learn to min-max your DPS rotation, which is either buying upgrades or like getting sweatier. But that's it. Whereas Telos is like, okay, cool, I could do it at 100 in rage, but 250, I'm going to have to change my rotation because currently I don't know, reflect the rock or whatever. And then at 500, hey, look, this doesn't work because of whatever, and then you get to like 999, same again, 1000, 2000, up to 4000. So for me, Telos is like, I'm very competitive and I really like challenge. So for me, Telos is like the only boss that actually gives me that like consistently. Whereas no, once we've done the other bosses, you're like, cool. I guess I either go for the world record or I just stop. And like obviously they're quite far apart. So yeah,
I've chatted to a few people about sort of having like a kill count high score or something like that, just as something to aim for once you've got the drop log of bosses.
What we need is competitive, like esports related RuneScape PVM content. That would be it. So you get something like teams sign up. They give themselves a team name. 3 players sign up, and it's a race to run ED1, ED2, ED3 to run the trilogy. And it's without you can bank, but like it's a race from the second it starts. You get 3 teams side by side on stream race. They're never going to beat the world record because like world records and on like in the moment on stage competition will never be the same. But the team that wins the prize, and that would be amazing if that was true of Solak and Rago, all of the elite dungeons. Telos obviously is singular, so I guess less Telos, but like it could still have like that kind of like competitive in the moment rushing of damage and being able to adapt on the fly and build it up. That I think that would be that would certainly like thrill me. I think that would thrill a lot of players, and bad players could still watch the really good players do it because that's no different to any other esport, right? Like you're watching Worlds and you have no idea how they get such good farm, but you're like, damn, they're really good. And it would be the same, you watch incredible Twitch streamers doing, getting 4-minute 4K enraged Telos kills, and you think, damn, that's something else. But imagine that racing against 4 other people, and the person who wins by 1 second because they got this thing happen. That would be awesome. So I would love to see that.
I guess if you just look at how the Talos tournament did while it was going, I don't know if you had a chance to watch much of that, but like it's simple. It's add your little like your limitations and stuff to it, and suddenly people really want to watch.
And also RS, there was a Virago one as well, and like tournament, and RS has absolutely has the framework. I mean, the way you would do it, in my opinion, and this would be stealing a little bit from WoW, but you use those, Shattered Worlds has those like mutations or things that like adapt, like red fireball spawn, or like you can't use food or whatever, or like food half heals. I pick them up, put them on top of Elite Dungeons 3, run the dungeon. The first team to finish the boss gets a trophy.
Oh,
whatever.
You have all the negative ones on them. Oh,
yeah, of course, yeah, right. So like you could, and like assuming both teams get the same modifiers.
Or what if the teams get to pick their modifiers? Kind of like picks and bads.
You each pick a positive. Yeah, absolutely, that could work. You pick a strategy, and you adapt it. Like each team picks a positive, each team picks a negative, and you ban. Like I don't care how you do it. I just want to see it. I think that would be amazing. Because you'd get like genuine competition and genuinely really good stream content. Whilst RS3 currently has a lack of like general PVM content. I mean, if it wasn't for Telos, there would be almost none, and even then Telos is like 4 years old. So Like people, there's a limit to how many times Evil Lucario can do 4K Enrage in with many different of his own random
limitations.
Limitations, yeah. And like, why not just build that onto? Or you could make your own Shattered World style auto creating a generated world, slap some bosses on it, and go from there. I mean, I don't know, obviously, like the power they would have over their client, but in theory, I think it's a wonderful concept. I think. I mean, I think it just sounds. It'd be amazing to watch like 3 of these legendary players on teams together racing to run through a dungeon, and then the final boss is randomly generated, and it's either Rago, Solak, or AOD. And you're like, they finally get through, and they have to do AOD with half healing or whatever, which is fine because no one already needs to eat food AOD. But like conceptually, you get the point, right? It would just be beautiful to see. So yeah, I'd love to see something like that.
I guess it also puts a focus on what a lot of players really enjoy about RS3 over old school, and it is the combat. Like the people that still play RS3 are the people that have adapted to the combat and enjoy it, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, that or the visual style, I guess.
Although I mean, the visual style is not exactly the most consistent one in the...
True, that's definitely true. But still, it looks prettier than OSRS. I think no one will ever tell you that's not true. But I think you're right. I think combat is a fundamental part of the game. I mean, realistically, every skill is based around combat. Obviously, I'm not saying you have to be into PVM to have fun at all, because you don't. But and you can play RS however you want. But I just think there's a huge PVM community in RuneScape that would love to see
something
actual very high end competitive, competitive, not just one guy running the same boss slowly encroaching his enrage, but actually, hey, look, these 2 teams, they have a little team name, they can have fans, and you could have like a board in Prif or in the Grand Exchange that says their name for a month. They won the tournament. They currently, they're the winners, and you can invite
they get
other
a title
teams.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They get a title, which is something simple, but they've won this dungeon. That's it. They have this permanently, and the team that came second gets a silver version of it. And those players would be so motivated to do that, because you see that from the Telos tournament, you see that from the Virago tournament that Virago PVM did host, and yeah, people are all about that. And you know that because there's communities going for my friend just broke the Solak 7-man world record yesterday. Like people are still hyped to do it. It's just that it's private. It's a niche community.
Yeah,
like,
there's
no one really tweets. Like, how does the average player know that the Solak world record just got broken? There was no announcement. There's no Twitter tweet about it. But it's amazing. Think about it. There are these players who are playing almost tick perfect inputs for 7 minutes or however long the kill was. Like probably less. I mean, definitely less. But like that's amazing. Like probably like 5, isn't it, or whatever it is. But like that's wonderful. I think that's the stuff I love.
It's just having some kind of an official endorsement by Jagex though to get it out there and to get the focus on it.
But they could.
They definitely could. And I mean, obviously they tried to do the race to ready competition thing. I don't know if you saw that a couple of months ago.
I was quite out of touch with that. Yeah.
It didn't really do much, to be honest. It was a speed run to get a new Iron Man account ready for Desperate Measures.
Right, okay.
Which it turns out is about 20 hours of content and is best min-maxing doing your dailies. So it's not, it's not really a proper speedrun in some ways.
Yeah, I see your point. Yeah.
Like
and I know that Jagex don't want to like create unhealthy habits. So like back when they had these competitions, which were like the most Zilyana kills in a month, and people would AFK Zilyana for 10 hours every day for the month just to have the title Zilyana's Bane, right? Like that was, I respect that. That's bad. That's unhealthy. But yeah,
there's ways to do it. There's
definitely ways to do it. You just need to figure out, get creative and figure out and get in touch with the content creators and be like, what sort of stuff, there was a really awesome series that Cash Stack and RS Guy did, which you probably are aware of, but the one where they were racing to a dormant weapon.
Yep. Tell us from scratch.
First, tell us from scratch. Right. That was an amazing piece of content. I mean, that was huge. I loved that, and that was whether you were doing it for the narrative or just for the stream or just for the hype of getting Blaster Fusion boots, like it was amazing to watch, and that was what a quality content. And it's a real shame though that they couldn't have been given fake accounts from Jagex to be able to do that without having to wipe their own, like that, stuff like that. They had to do that all off their own back, to my understanding. I mean, I don't talk to Ryan much, just generally, but I said about that. But like, that would have been amazing. Like, here are your 2 alt accounts, and people can go follow, and maybe you can add something in game that allows you to pick a favorite or stuff
Yeah,
like that, or like people can donate. That would have been really cool. Like if you donated millions of coins or something, you could boost something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like time spent
I
charging a
feel like
pillar.
that might not be maybe not
I
the
don't know.
donation
Well, fair
thing.
enough. Yeah. I get your point, but just cool ways to like interact
Yeah.
with the community, right? That's what I want to see. Bring the community together behind competition. I'd love that.
Have you ever been to RuneFest?
I haven't. No, I couldn't go. I can't remember what I was doing last year. I couldn't go last year, and I never really um thought about going. I mean, I will go. I will go to the next Dreamfest for sure, but I just never really. I don't know what I guess I didn't really know many J mods back then because like this would have been like 2 years ago, and I now do, and I know a lot more players that now go, and I know the scene a lot better. So yeah, I think I'll go again. I know the ticket price is quite high from memory,
Yeah,
but I was like, oh,
it's not a cheap, not a
it's not a cheap
weekend.
experience,
No.
which is a shame. You know, you got to book yourself out in Cambridge or whatever. But yeah, I think I'll go just for the experience really, and it'd be cool to meet these people. That I've played and done bosses with and stuff. Now that I've got a little bit more integrated in the community, I will recognize people. Whereas like 2 whole years ago, I just was like, oh, who are you? And I don't know who I am either. I'll just tell you. Whereas now I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, these people I know and people I talk to and stuff. Yeah, so I think it looks nice. I'd like to see some more of them actually, but I guess it's probably a big event to put on. So I imagine once a year is probably all the best they're going to do.
Yeah. So would you say, obviously, with this year's situations, has that meant you've played RS more than you have been in the past? Is it kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's been playing more than they have.
That's very true.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it has, and there's been some. I mean, so archaeology obviously came out, which was quite exciting, and archaeology created a power creep that meant I can push to 4K telos, so that's nice. Because I wasn't good enough to font. Fonting telos is not a thing anyone should do. So that's been a really big focus of mine, and so that's meant I've been playing RS more, but a bit more solo than group bosses, weirdly. But yeah, pandemic wise, it has been a bit of a nightmare just generally, but for everyone, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've played a bit more games and found more solitude in like community based events. And I've taught like clans AOD and stuff, just because it's really nice, right? It's just really wholesome, and people have a little bit more free time on their hands to do such activities, or maybe aren't as restricted on their time frames because they maybe don't have to get up for work at 7. They can get up for work.
Can work from
whenever
home
they want.
or whenever.
Yeah, 1 PM. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, yeah, it's been good. It's been good in terms of games and stuff, but obviously in terms of life, I mean, yeah, it's a nightmare for everyone, isn't it? But yeah, more RS, which is cool, and slowly ticking off goals and things. Just yeah.
So have you reached 4K yet, or are you still on the?
No, I'm
still
2.2. Yeah, 2.2 at the moment. I hit 2K and stopped. For like as what everyone does, because I was like, yay. And then my good friend who a good friend of mine, he hit. Yeah. Well, it's halfway, but like mechanically, it's not because the rotation I do at 2K is the exact same rotation everyone does at 4K. Yeah. So it's just at that point it is just. I mean, it's very slightly not true because I have to change it in P2, but very slightly. But other than that, it's the exact same rotation. So whereas like learning, like I remember learning to I'm not sure how well you know Telos or the viewers know Telos, but in phase 4 he only does his special after he's auto attacked you X number of times. And you can do the whole of phase 4 if you stun lock him correctly. You can do the whole of phase 4 without him auto attacking you once, which means no specs.
Yep.
And I took 20 hours to learn that. I'm that bad. I took 20 hours to learn that. I died for 20 hours. I don't know how much it cost. I don't know. And now I can do it. Phase 4 is my easiest phase. I never fail it. I fail it like once in every 20 maybe. So, but that phase 4 rotation I do now and have done up to 2K, I will do to 4K. It doesn't change. So that's kind of what I mean. So the push to 4K is it's doable and just a matter of
grinding it out.
Yeah. Also, I don't. So a really good friend of mine. It's really funny. I taught him everything he knows about PVM, and then he went from like terrible, like garbage, to like incredible. He just broke the 7-man Solar Quad record. He's 4K Telos. He's duoed hard mode Rago, and he's a wonderful man, a mucky, and he's fantastic. And we talk about PVM all the time. And when he hit 2K before me, it motivated me all the way up to 2K. And now he's hit 4K, and I'm like, well, okay, cool. You hit 4K doing the exact same rotation we both did to 2K, so let's go for it. So yeah, I think I'm probably gonna an hour a day, push 10, 15 in rage a day, and then small goals, right? Hit 2.5 because 2.5 is where the drop rate of orbs caps, 1 in 15, I think. And then 2.7 is the hardest flat buff where his tendril caps at 30k, and then everything after. And then at 3k, you're at 3k. I mean, that's amazing. And then every 100 after 3k is
It's
badass. I mean, yeah, it feels great, right? You're like, wow, I'm at 3.1. I'm cool. I'm at 3.2. Wow, I'm at 3.25. That's a quarter of the last 1,000. You know, and yeah. So that's just constantly small
I guess
little
it's
goals.
all the same because you're literally doing everything in your power not to get hit at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
yeah, his auto attacks would one shot you. Like not literally, obviously, with like protect prayers and disruption shield and all the things that you can do, but pretty much you're right. At that point, the only thing that really annoys me, transitioning past 2k, is the golems. They hit you like a truck. I got one shot by a golem from full HP earlier, and like literally 11,000 health. I had dish shield up. His mage hit the dish shield. I was flicking mage, and then a golem punched me for my entire health, and I was like, "There's ways to deal with this, right?" Like obviously, I could have reflected earlier, vitality potted. There's strategies, but like I was like, "Wow, that's." Whew.
That's what I'm dealing with from now. Good.
Yeah, and it's like, and a friend of mine, Tishika, she's pushing to 4k as well, and she was like, "But go every two dies the golem's P5." She like surges, walks back into the beam to clear the virus. Golem clap from like 4 squares away. Oh man. So yeah, and it's a pain, but I'm a little bit sad because it's the last great achievement of skill, other than maybe Duo, Rago, and world records, and I kind of don't want that to be over, so I am taking it slow because Telos is a wonderful feeling.
Taking it slow and hoping for
horrible.
something new to come out, and wow.
Yeah, God, please.
December, there is. I don't know.
I know, but I mean, it's been 18 months since ED3.
Yep.
2.5, 3 years since Solak, or 2 years, maybe 2.5. Yeah, 2.5, 3 years because of July, wasn't it? And now this new boss, super excited, really, really positive energy for this, like massively 10 out of 10 Jagex, please release it, but like also more. And I think honestly, I think Jagex should look at Telos and look at the success it's had, that it's still the most relevant boss in the game.
Yeah.
The most viewed and watched thing on Twitch, RuneScape's Twitch, is Telos. I mean, by miles. And that should be, they should go, wow, okay, wow, we need a boss that is insane, that is insanely hard. And they never thought anyone would do it above 1k when they released it. They thought 500 in rage would be a thing only very few people could do, and that was, Saturn took 14 months to hit 4k, which is an unbelievable achievement. Congrats to him. But then and then the power creep edges in, so Telos becomes easier and easier every day, and slowly it's sort of just, it's never going to be irrelevant, but like I remember before archaeology, 56 people had 4k in rage, and within like 2 months after it, 300 people had 4k in rage or something like that. You know what I mean?
There's
like
so many now. Yeah,
those numbers are slightly skewed a bit because I think it's currently at like 350. I could check, but no one cares that much. But the point is that like that power creep was so ginormous that they need to go, okay, cool. How do we do Telos again? Just different.
It's also the 120 herb and farming. I think that had a big, like just having the barricade timer from
Malatop's K timer. Yeah. Ripper Demon being unbelievable DPS. And then when people, once Ripper Demon destroyed things, that was big. Obviously, the new perks buffed it. I mean, Vuln bombs being really easy to use. EOF does even more with being able to like, SGB or G staff out of it, because G staff now hits 10k every time because you're using it with tier 92s or tier 93 Inquis staff. And I mean, Ripper Demon was probably the single biggest. I would maybe say only, and Inquis stuff helped, but like only because it did so much more damage than, it does damage, whereas Nihil did no damage and just buffed you, whereas it buffs you and just tears through the boss, and then you can use summoning pots or spiritual renewals. I don't know, this is the click. I'm thinking of my click when I spam the button, like, go Ripper Demon, go! Man, because the Ripper Demon ignores Telos' immunity in the last, so you just spam clicking your pots. But like that is just huge. That meant you never have to font Telos again. And fonting Telos is doing the boss as intended, right? And fonting is very, very hard, whereas not fonting is relatively incredibly easy. Like comparing the two strategies. So, and Telos 2.0, please, would be amazing. That's the one thing I just hope I hope they realize the success of their own. They created Telos. I mean, it's incredible content. They
Yeah.
made that. So
Yeah, and
make it again.
it's been something that I've talked about as well again before, is just taking the cap off of Telos. If they could do that, imagine
God.
the competition for people just going
Yeah.
for as high as
5K.
possible.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if they take the cap off or just move the cap higher. In terms of like, if you take the cap off, no one can win. Whereas if you put the cap to 5K, someone can win. So like maybe there's an art, but like maybe you could go 5K next year, 6K. That could be, because then you can repeat
Yeah.
it. But yeah, absolutely, that would be really interesting. I mean, there comes a
Or
point.
you even just take the cap off, but add lots of different titles as you go, something like that.
Yeah, something like that, or different achievements for doing different things, like doing it in just melee or whatever. But to be honest, I think they need to look at. They don't. I mean, I think your idea is fine. I just think that like they need to look at Telos and go, we did so well. We did so well with the whole of God Wars 102. I mean, the whole of God Wars 102, Telos included. Everything about that content is fantastic. Other than maybe Sliske scaling, like Gregorovich just does so much DPS for no reason. But other than that, it's a fantastic dungeon. They could, and Telos being the pinnacle, like all they have to do is go, right, okay, how do we
do this again? Yeah.
How do we remake? Maybe Elder God Wars is precisely what they're doing. They're going to go, right, okay, we're going to make 4 bosses similar to the Vind or whatever, and then Telos V2, and that will keep them entertained for another few years, because it will. I mean, the hype behind that race to the highest in rage of Elder God Wars. Elder God Wars
It's going to
Telos
be insane. Yeah.
Please.
Like archaeology,
that's...
but turned up to 11. Like.
Oh yeah. I mean, because skilling is interesting, but also, there's a
point, I guess,
with
where
skilling is like, you're just skilling. I mean, it's impressive, and the strategies and the solving of mysteries and stuff. But like, whilst they're clicking, there's no mechanical output. There's no like, and it is very impressive. The people who went for 200 mil and got it so quickly, it's awesome. And I followed it myself, and I wouldn't do it myself, but I followed it myself. But there's a difference between like, hey, it's really impressive that you hit these skills so quickly, like Zazima being the rank 1, it was impressive, it was awesome, but there's a difference between like I could have done that in your situation, which is what some people will think, whereas like Telos is just not the case. Like there's very few.
It requires your own skill and knowledge. Yeah,
it's just true skill, right? It's just like, damn, this is unrelenting commitment to this thing, and new strategies that come out and styles. Yeah, it's awesome. More of that, please. Telos V2. One day. Oh, the game would be wonderful. I can't wait.
Well, because they kind of compared the new boss to Rax and Telos. What, I don't know quite what that means.
Did they say like, Telos? It was something.
Telos,
it was somewhere similar to 100% enraged Telos and Raxi, and like, yeah. And I guess that is in terms of difficulty, right? Like in terms of like, probably has multiple phases, like 4 or 5 phases. Has like multiple things you have. I mean, Telos and Rax are very different fights if you actually think about them in isolation.
Well, Rax now is like, just 2-minute fight, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that. But even at its core, right, like Raxi is a 1v1 where you also sometimes have to kill spiderlings, and you move a little bit to like get in light or move acid, and that's basically the fight. Whereas Telos is like getting into and out of beams, dealing with multiple specials that are on different cooldowns and predictable, which is a big element of it.
Yes.
Because then you can play around that. But then in phase 4, you have these golems that spawn that you have to account for while being in certain places at certain times. And then P5 is even more complex than that. So they're very different fights. I mean, there's no real fight like Telos. So I'd love to see 100% enraged Telos, like just rehashed into something similar,
some new version,
new version of it. I mean, Dark Telos, no, but like shiny Telos, but even just enough that it's a similar enough fight in terms of concept, phasily and things like that. But then, obviously unique and different mechanics.
Yeah, I guess the hope is as well that there is some kind of enrage on it.
I hope, yeah, I really hope so. And it's also solo and duoable, if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure they said that. Yeah.
Whenever they always, really funny thing about Jagex, they always get that slightly wrong. So whenever they say something's easier duo than solo, it's the other way around. Like remember when Solak came out, they said that 7-man was easy mode, and 2-man was hard mode, and no one could 7-man, and everyone could 2-man. If I remember correctly, I think it was that way around. Yeah, it was that way around. And then eventually they swapped it, they flipped it,
Hmm.
with some nerf to the elf, I think, and they just flipped it the other way around, and it was 7 manable only because duo was just took twice as long or something. But yeah, they seem to get that wrong. But I hope it balances really nicely, because obviously duo Rax is terrible in terms of design, because unless you can absolutely one shot phase 2/3
Yeah.
as a duo, which is fine, but you basically have to have like BIS melee gear. Unless you can do that, it's not worth doing darkness or minion
Ooh.
bath. And then hello.
Well, I disappeared on screen, but I didn't disappear for you. There we go.
Oh,
I think I'm back. Sorry about that. Continue.
no worries. I was just saying, yeah, duo Raxi is just I mean, you would never duo acid path, acid route, and then darkness is fine because you just one shot P3 and then P4. But and then minion, your DPS has to be so perfect that it's basically inaccessible for most players. So duo Raxi kind of doesn't scale very well in my opinion. Whereas, yeah. So I kind of hope they figured that out. Whatever went wrong with Rax and whatever went right with the scaling of, say, Solak, they kind of figure out something there
They
for
work
the new
it
boss.
out, yeah.
And make it so that it's duoable and soloable, and both are equally viable-ish. That would be great. And I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if it'll actually come out in December. That's another thing entirely.
That is the other thing, yeah. I mean, to be honest though, the last couple of months there has been fairly consistent. There's been a decent flow of stuff. They have been definitely improving on what we saw over the summer. It seems they're definitely getting into some kind of work pattern now.
Yeah, I guess that's their goal, right? It's when you have a change of leadership, you kind of want to ascertain a line to meet and then be consistent across that line. So I get that. The only thing I would say is if that then comes at a lack of content, you need to sort of do something to redeem yourselves, or at least make promises that you will actually be able to keep. And those things haven't yet happened. And a good example, I mean, I guess this boss will be a really good test of that, because if you say the boss is going to be this year in December and it comes out on the 14th of December, bang, there's this boss and it's good, then everyone's going to forget about 2020. They're going to go okay, great, archaeology came out, a new boss came out, and there's some upgrades and stuff like that. That's awesome. But if it flops, or it comes out in March, which is reasonable, plausible, knowing historically, then I think that's problematic.
It shows the new leadership hasn't actually changed anything, I guess, isn't it?
I guess that's the worry. It just it's easy to it's really easy to harm a reputation, but really hard to build a good one. And that's what everyone wants. I'm sure everyone at Jagex wants their content to be fantastic and to come out on time. And I understand. I think everyone understands that that's not always the case. But when things are promised, or things are missed, or when things are lost out, that's when you get into issues. And especially with
especially with a community that's, I think the thing is, because the game has gone on for so long and people are so used to a certain pace of content, that is also part of the issue. Because I've actually only been playing a couple of years.
Sure, right, okay, yeah.
So I'm not used to any kind of pace, if that makes sense. So I've not minded the speed stuff's come out, because I mean, part of that's I've got 19 years of content to do.
Well, that's precisely it, surely, yeah.
But it's also, a new thing every month doesn't sound too bad to me, really. A new thing every couple of months is still a pretty decent rate. I mean, obviously, League has patches every, 2 weeks?
It's different, though. They don't.
It's different, but it's a case of updates and stuff.
Yeah.
How often's a new champ, for example?
Yeah, once a month, really. And then I remember when League went from every 2 weeks to once a month, everyone was outraged. But then the champs that came out were amazing, so no one minded. So that's how they kind of they went for identity of champs instead of random new ones. And I think with RS and its patches, so a few of my friends, because of Steam, have just the ones I play League with actually have just got into Runescape, and I said, they're like, what's the end game like? And I said, well, getting to the end game is incredible. There is years and years of content and PVM experience and skilling and quests. There's 413 quests, but no, the only quests there are 250. That's incredible. And no one who's played 3,000 hours of the game can go, it's a bad game, because if it was a bad game, you wouldn't have spent 3,000 hours playing it unless you're sadistic, which not everyone can be. Although I'm sure there are a few. But you can't sort of flame the game for being bad just because it doesn't cater to you specifically. It's just that I would always warn them, once you are end game, unless you like Telos, you're probably not going to have unless you have to love questing and completionist things and skilling and PVM to get the most out of the game. If you're just a PVMer, once you've killed everything and you're, whatever enraged Telos you want and done whatever bosses and you're rich enough to own all your gear, then you're gonna be like, wow, there's not much to do here, and you'll just stop playing. But that's fine. It's just,
I mean, I feel like that is
coming to terms with
that is MMOs though, isn't it? Like
absolutely,
you
yeah,
always get
yeah,
to
yeah.
the end game, you grind out a boss, you get
Yeah.
it, and then you leave the game until something new comes out. And I think
that's very normal. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
healthy, right? That's
there's
like
just
WoW is
something
exactly
about
the same.
I don't know if it is something that's across all other MMOs though. Like I've not really interacted with many other people in terms of the community reaction to it. That makes sense because
So
obviously the RuneScape community is very questionable of Jagex a lot of the time. They're very critical of them.
it's a
I
very
don't
niche
know.
part, though, right? It's Reddit and Twitter, and
Mm.
like this. I mean, this is true of every game and everything that has a subreddit, which is like the Reddit community are the real keen beans. You very rarely get um someone who's not passionate on Reddit. Like
Yeah.
what? Why are they on Reddit if they don't care? Like this is it's great. I know
Because you've
it's
got to
like
search it
fallacious
out,
to say.
basically. Especially for
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like RuneScape, you've got to search it. It's not going to come up in
yeah.
your feed or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's a little bit less now as things like Reddit are being used as ways to find teams or find knowledge, and it becomes more and more common. But the majority of the vocal sort of minority in this case are very often very experienced players, and it's apt and Jagex does need to cater them too, of course. But that they necessarily aren't indicative of the new player's experience. And I was, my friends have just gone through this brand new experience now. And a friend of mine is a semi-professional WoW player, and he picked up RS a year ago, and he killed Solak 6 months in. He's 315 rage Telos within 6 months because he picks up an MMO and he's like, right, how do I get to endgame? What do I have to do? And I teach him ability rotations, and he doesn't go, yeah, I'm not sure I can be bothered to bring a shield. He's like, okay, so I can use resonance, and I can get out an auto attack while using resonance. Okay, and that's an offhand order, and he's learning. Like he wants, and that's it. That's just the way he plays the game. But then, of course, that's fine. And I think it's it's healthy, and I know that new content is what everyone wants always, and like not all new content is for everyone. I mean, archaeology, I hit 99 in 2 weeks, not trying hard. I didn't have anything. I mean, I was AFKing it while doing my normal life, and I had nothing. Yeah, so I hit 99 in 2 weeks and never went back. And then I was like, okay, I guess I could just AFK to 120. So I haven't engaged correctly with the archaeology content. I thought it was really fun to be skilling with my friends for the first time in years because I don't really skill for fun. But the content's there, and the same with the quest. They put in, God knows how many hours they put in to make a quest, and I rushed through it using a quick guide on the wiki a week later, and I don't read any of the stuff. I don't care about any of the stuff because I don't read it. Circular, I get that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't read, so I don't care. But I also don't want to spend 4 hours reading dialogue of While Gothic Sleeps just to get my 75,000 XP or 100,000 XP agility lamp. Because I just want the quest done so I can comp or whatever the goal was at the time or something. And yeah, but it's different. It's tricky, right? They spent hundreds of hours, probably. I mean, hundreds of hours on making a quest for me to spend 30 minutes rushing through it, and that's a very difficult thing for them to balance. Obviously, when 100,000 players spend 30 minutes, it's worth their time. But it's very difficult to complain about not having a story, not being cared when you don't read it. And it's if you're not a skiller, then fine. But skilling is a fundamental part of the game, so you got to accept that and and move on. But the same comes in terms of PVMing. If there's no bosses released year in and year out, or if there's one boss every 2 years, that's really going to grate on people because enough people will get to the end and go, hey
now
guys,
what?
now what? And other than Telos, as we've said, there just isn't much. There isn't much there. I mean, it's just once you can sort of 7-man AOD and 4-man or duo Solak and trio or duo Rago, you're like, oh, this is really fun, and I'm kind of rich now. I've got a few bill, and I've spent some tier 92s or whatever your state of play is, and now what? Now I guess I just carry on.
There's no sort of feeling to getting a drop at that point. It's like, oh, I've already got this before. You don't have that same like pop off that you do the first time you get it.
Yeah. I mean, AOD does that to you. I'm not sure if you AOD, but anyone who does, like I remember the first codex I saw, and I was like, oh my god, codexes are AOD, and then like a month later or 2 months later, you're like, oh, another codex, and like oh man.
So I got a 1kc Praisal Codex.
Oh.
However, it was a share though, which was
that's unfortunate.
which was a shame, but I still
1kc. That's amazing. That's awesome. And that was probably like an incredibly hype moment, right? And
Mm.
everyone probably went, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" You felt out of your mind, and like it's awesome. And I love RS that it can give you that and the way the drops work. But after you have 1,000 AOD kill count, you'll get a codex and go, "Cool, I guess I sell that.
Yeah.
75 mil. I guess that's 75 mil towards my one bill drop, one bill weapon that I want, or whatever it is, and like, but yeah, that's just, I mean, but that is MMOs as well. I talk to like semi-professional WoW players, and they're like, yeah, okay, cool, we got this, and oh yeah, good, we world 23rd instead of world 20. Oh, that's what gets them down. Not yay, hit the boss. Like it's about like, and your focus changes, right? And
Yeah.
that's normal. Whereas I go with friends who get like Vindicta lances and like, and I'm like, oh, you're so adorable.
Probably have that
but-
quite a bit with your new friends coming from Steam as
yeah,
well in
yeah.
the
Well,
future.
I took one of them. He played back in the day, and I took him to Krill, like Zamigor was
Yep.
only one boss, and he was like, "Oh, this is amazing," and I was just there. I think I don't know. My PR at Krill is like 6 seconds. Just Zerk, barge, assault, hurricane, right? It's just and like it's not impressive, but like he was there like, this is an amazing boss. I took him to Hellweir, and he was like, oh, I have to dodge things, and it was wonderful because he was so high energy and so excited. And then my friend Dandy, he got his first solo kill count in a duo with me 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and he was so happy because he's been trying for ages, and it was really hard. It is a hard boss, right? And I was tanking, and he had the DPS check at the end. Is like thrilling. You're like 300,000 damage, and you basically have till your base tank runs out of defensive. So it's an awesome, like, it's a very tense moment. And it was just such a great feeling to know that, hey, we just achieved this thing. MMOs are good for that. I think that's what MMOs are like. That's what they excel at, right? And RS is no different. Like, getting quest capes and getting comp capes and getting 99s or 120s or whatever you're maxing. Like the feel, like maxing is a wonderful feeling. Like it feels fantastic. So yeah, I like that for RS. I think RS does that really, really well. And like the changes they've made to like announcements and clans and things like this, being able to quick chat all of your achievements. That's good.
What was your last skill before you maxed for the first time?
I did it also. I meticulously planned a double XP weekend. So I was like 10 skills off max, but I'd been doing AOD for like 4 months before. So I bought, I had like, I think I sunk 700 mil into keys to get bonus XP and like 7 skills that were just horrible, like thieving, hunter, agility, like awful skill construction. And I smashed them out. And my last one in the end, I think, if I remember correctly, was cooking. And which is the dumbest one to have.
Very unusual, yeah.
It's just because why would I ever have trained that skill? And then I started with the worst. So I started with like categorically the worst, like hunter, agility, and stuff. So I had double XP in all of them, and just bonus XP in all of them, and just smashed them out. And then I did like all the quests to make sure I had everything min-maxed. I planned my time meticulously. It was a very long weekend. It was, oh god, that no life was bad. And then the last one, I think, and someone told me that you can do, it was something like Zamorak wine. I didn't think I'd get this far. It was like Zamorak wines, and you like squeeze grapes or something. And it was like 400,000 XP an hour, but cost me like 300 mil to get 99 cooking or something. The numbers may be off, but it was something obscene. And I was like,
very expensive.
Damn it! Right, that's it. I'm doing that. I was so close to max. I was like, I could just I'll just go back to AOD. It's like 30 mil an hour or 40 mil an hour. Just on it. And I just like sunk this cash. And I was just sitting there like squeezing grapes, just trying to get the sweet 99 cooking. So I think it was cooking. But I remember doing thieving in the Dwarf Traders, and
thieving
was really fun.
Thieving is obviously so much nicer now.
Yes, I've never safe cracked in my life. I don't know what safe cracking is, but it sounds great. It's AFK thieving, which is everything I wanted when I was younger. Pickpocketing like Ardone or however you pronounce that, Ardone knights or paladin. You had to pickpocket them and they'd smack you. And I remember getting that to like 56 for Desert Treasure, and that was horrible. And like that was then back when it was easy. And so I'm happy. Safe cracking and stuff exists, I guess. But I did Dwarf Traders. It was like 1 million XP an hour. So I just sat there with like a fully prepped inventory, which was adorable, and then just went, yeah, right, that's it. I'm getting max this weekend. That's my plan. And Yeah, I just did. I spent like as much money as needed in gold. And then I was broke, right? But I didn't care because I
Yeah.
was max. I went back to PVM and you just earn it back over time. And you're wearing your swish little max cape, feeling like a Chad, just wandering around like, look at me. You know, because that's how it feels like that when you max. I think it's, oh,
And
yeah,
you get
I'm
to
all about
color it as well. That's the thing, isn't
I
it? When you're like,
know. Oh,
oh, I
don't.
can actually change
Yeah.
how it looks.
Yeah. Oh, it was when I realized people could do that, but I didn't realize how easy it was. When I found out how easy it was, I was like, this is the dream. And then, yeah, and that was, oh, it's like fantastic. And I comped like not that long after that actually, because I already had 120 Slayer, or like nearly 120 Slayer. And 120 dungeon wasn't hard because I had final boss, so I had to do like 100 kill count for every elite dungeon,
Hmm.
which got me tons of dungeoneering XP. So I was like, yeah, it works. So comping was a different story because that felt like a real, because like you can't really cheat comp. I mean, obviously like the 120s you can kind of cheat, but like all the stupid tasks and quests and ports and like the shape. There's one that's like 12 days time gated in like the swamp place, more whatever it's called, and you
Yeah.
have to like once per day talk to this guy, and he like helps you with a statue. And I didn't realize. So I thought it was like a one-off, like a one-day thing, and you have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm there, all my stuff sorted, ready to comp. I was gonna get like 120 dungeon comp, and I'm there, and it says 12 days, and I'm like, no. So I sat for 12 days not comp, knowing that I was sitting on like 1,000 XP off dungeon. It was,
Oh.
that upset me. That was pain. Yeah. Do your dailies, people. Do your dailies. Especially ports. Ports is awful.
Yeah, I really have neglected my ports. I remember like once a week that I should send my ships out and do something.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I
and then
mean,
I
unless
send them
you.
out and just don't look at it for a week.
Well, comp is only cosmetic now, right? So like it doesn't matter too much. Whereas comp used to be like back when I got comp, it was the best in slot cape. So like a lot of us, like a lot of the PVMers were like highly motivated to get it because it was just the best for more than just stats as well. Like it had like the Steel Titan upgrades that used 12 energy, not 15, stuff like that, and it was awesome. So back then, that's why I got it. I'm not the kind of player that would have comped in RS otherwise. I don't really enjoy the task system. I'm not a huge fan of quests. I find it kind of monotonous. I don't mind AFK skilling, but I'm not interested in like getting 120 archaeology just for the
maxing it
sake
all
of it.
out.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. I have no interest in that. I think if the game came now that PVM Hub exists, like if I had a new account, if I was brand new, I wouldn't even consider maxing. I'd just be like, yeah, I'll get the minimum requirements to get the best possible PVM gear.
Yep.
And go from there. And if that requires 97 archaeology, then I will get it because I think it probably would for like Fury of the Small, or Fury of the Small. But Fury of the Small relic. But otherwise, I'd neglect it as much as I could because
the PVM hub was a godsend, to be
that
honest. Because I was still probably halfway to max, something like that. But I was doing a lot of racks, and there's not an easy way to get to racks, really.
It's awful, isn't it? You have to
can
like file, and then you like teleport, and you jog, and you surge across into a bridge. Oh yeah.
And don't even mention barrows as well.
Oh god, yeah, no. Oh yeah, no, I back obviously before PVM Hub, like that was, unless you were maxed, that was the only way. And getting it was just such a pain. Getting to Nex was Trollheim teleport, and you had to run unless you had done the quest that allowed you to teleport
Just
like a
go
little
straight to the
further
God Wars, yeah.
And even then, you still had to walk ages, and then suddenly you would be like Nex MG, max guilds only and stuff like that. And this was when I wasn't maxed. It was really annoying, and then Telos was a pain. You had to heart teleport and then run all the way down. And I couldn't be bothered to do the mini quest for that, so I actually got to like 300 in rage without heart teleporting before I realized that was the thing. And I was like, wait, I don't have to run all the way across. I literally had lodestone teleport and then surge, or
desert camp, and then you go diagonal down.
Yeah. Across the little bridge past, and I'd build on the crocodile, and then I'd build on the jackal, and it was like a vulture. I get to 100% adrenaline and keep running. It was awful. And now you get like adrenaline crystals giving you 100% adrenaline, which is lovely. It's a fantastic quality of life change. I think PVM Hub is absolutely outstanding piece of content for all its reasons.
Yeah, because people think there's not been a huge amount this year, but then you remember PVM Hub was actually this year.
Was it really? Wow.
Yeah, because it was January time.
It must have been very early.
It was basically because archaeology was pushed back, they kind of put PVM Hub out in its place.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, PVM Hub was amazing, and I'm very, very happy they did that. I mean, looking back at the year, like PVM Hub, obviously archaeology was great, and then
Then there's a big break.
yeah, then I kind of think like what's come out, and then Orphan I don't care about because I have 120 Arch already.
It's a
Other
lot
than
of quality of life stuff though.
yeah,
Like
and
they
that's
did the whole
okay.
Grand Exchange stuff. They've done a lot of
Yeah, of
work on
course.
clues and lots of
Yeah,
bits and bobs here and there.
yeah. I think for me, I my heart is set on bossing, right?
Yeah.
So clues I don't care about. Grand Exchange is very useful, but like it doesn't feel like. See, what the weird thing about quality of life changes, and this isn't like me being entitled about it, but like often quality of life changes feel like they should have been in the game from the beginning. They just weren't. That's how quality of life will always come across, right? It will just
Yep.
always be, hey, look, we should have put placeholders in when we designed the banks, but obviously back then we didn't even consider it. People's banks weren't 800 inventory piece, whereas now, yeah, we're going to slide this in. And obviously, like I from a back end point of view, it's absolutely tons of work and feels like a huge deal. But from the player's perspective, it's like, why when I put in a Grand Exchange offer, do I have to cancel it, take my money out, go back into search, type it in again? Why can't I just back? And that's, I think, the only thing maybe Jags haven't quite become aware of, which is like quality of life changes are incredible as a player. You feel great, but you still carry on doing the exact same thing you were doing, just like that fraction of a second easier. And PVM Hub is
Yeah.
obviously a quality of life change in a sense, but it's a huge piece of content and it's amazing because it genuinely changes completely how PVM is done in RS. But yeah, it and then they and then they sort of go backwards on a couple of things, right? So like with archaeology, they gave you 50 free bank spaces, but I use a lot more than 50 in how many artifacts I have, by quite a long way.
Yeah.
And that's not because I'm some hench archaeology person. I think I had, by the time I was 90 archaeology, I had like well over 50
Yeah.
artifacts, and now 120, I have even more. And like I guess I'll disassemble them all, but that feels like a almost backward step of quality of life. That they recognize how important bank space is to people and placeholders, and yet they're going to go, "Why? We're not going to give you an artifact store. We're just gonna leave those there in your bank forever." And like, if you're 99 and don't have the time to push to 120, then they're there forever.
Yeah.
It's really grim. And the same with the relic powers. You have the
Mm.
PVMers, you have the skillers, and Jagex historically have recognized when they've made mistakes in making PVM items skilling items. They did it with the Limitless sigil. The Total Sparks were incredibly expensive, and the other two sigils, which were skilling sigils, weren't usable because Limitless was usable. The people willing to use it
Yeah.
are very rich, and it cost 90k to use every time you used it, but it was worth it in niche situations. So then they changed that, they've reworked that, but then they release relics and they haven't reworked them yet, and they've just added 150 more relic power to my understanding, but they still haven't reverted the changes. So you're either a skiller or you're a PVMer in terms of your relics, which I think is a shame. Because
Yeah.
why do that, right? Why not just yeah?
Like
Why not just
having a
go?
limit on certain types of them makes sense, but
Yeah, for sure.
have
It
you
may,
checked out Orphan yet, or not
not yet. No,
really?
I haven't been able to play today. Well, that's not true. I did 1 hour of Telos this morning. But yeah, no, I haven't checked it out yet. But also, like, I haven't actually done Desperate Measures. Um,
I don't
for
think
some
you
reason.
need to do it for
You don't need to
access.
do
I
it.
think
You
it's
just need to.
recommended though, because it's obviously
Yeah, I think
lore-based
I
stuff.
might.
So
But Orphan looks good. I mean, I like very visually pleasing. I remember the last time that I got really hyped about something visually pleasing was the Lost Grove, where Solak is. Like, it's a gorgeous piece of. I mean, I guess most people actually don't go there. It's this gorgeous piece of content, right? Like off the southwest of the map, near like the Elf City and whatever, the swamp, and like it's stunning. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. There's even a homage to Chester Bennington there floating around. I mean, in case you didn't know, Linkin Park lead singer, after he took his own life, they made a little wisp that says "It flickers, it flickers" from his song. Anyway, moving past that. Oh, beautiful man. And yeah, but I've only ever gone there to Solak, so I teleport in, I walk to the lady, I go in, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but the whole island is stunning. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful.
yeah,
But no
yeah.
one ever goes there because there's nothing to do on that island except like kill the plants, I guess, if you're really high Slayer and stuff. So I was a little bit worried about Orphan from that perspective, which is like I really hope
People
there's
check it
like
out, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because there's some beautiful pieces of content in the game, and I think Jagex don't quite. I don't know, like there's so much that could be done with the Lost Grove. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. I mean,
So
Anachronian
yeah,
nailed it, right?
yeah,
Like that was
yeah.
great.
Every week I do like a community showcase video where I
Right. Yeah.
get people's videos and stuff together, and I do like in between shots. And the last week I went to the Lost Grove and I did it. I set it to dawn skybox, and having the light coming through the
Oh
trees
my god. Yeah.
is
That's
so
the
good.
stuff. And that, I mean, I don't know. I'd love there to be like a quest there or something. I don't know. I mean,
Just something to
maybe not a
get
quest, but
people there.
something.
Yeah,
Maybe if the mini game was like, because there's a weekly there, a D&D weekly, but
yeah.
like I don't think it's very good from my understanding of how many. I think it gives like a small, very very small amount of XP for its
I
effort,
mean, I think
which
you can get a pet
I
though,
think
right?
you can. I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, I guess, but like, you know, um,
People like
but like,
XP.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, always. People will always like XP, and unless you really, really want a specific pet, then meh. And yeah, I just I just love a little bit more of Lost Grove. I think Anachronia was a huge success. That was wonderful. That's
I mean,
great.
at first it did feel quite empty, but obviously now they've
Yeah,
added a lot of stuff, a lot of reasons to do Big Game Hunter as well. Obviously, when it
yeah.
launched,
Dragon Master helped. Yeah,
the Terraform Wall, and that was it. But now there's
and even then, the
Dragomatic,
drop
there's
rate was
the
terrible.
dinosaur eggs and stuff as well. Like,
Yep.
it's just an ever growing and sort of more and more useful piece of content over this past year. They
I
focused on
think
it
so.
a lot.
And that's great, right? Like they get this amazing continent, and then they just add to it, and that's I mean that's a recipe for success because you already recognize your island and how it works. And you go, oh wow, look cool. There's this thing, and yeah, the Dragonmatic reignited Big Game Hunter. I think it was um a little bit lackluster on release, right? It's sort of because you couldn't really get good money from it because of
Yeah.
like the drop rate was so low of the mall. Still, I mean, still is that it just wasn't viable. So
I mean, unless you worked out how to basically force double and triple spawns, and then you had the
yeah,
improved drop rate, which I know was a thing for a while.
yeah,
And then
probably.
that
I
got
don't know.
patched out, so
Yeah. I mean, yeah, right. So, but no, I think Anachronia is solid. I
and
like
Ranch
the
Out
new
of
one.
Time as well, that got added there. Like there's so
Yeah,
much.
it did. Yeah, you're right. Ranch Out of Time. Yeah, that's great. Although Player Farm changed to a bit of a meme when they happened. But do you play? You must have played during Player Farm being overpowered.
Yeah, farming's my first 99.
Yeah, I mean that's lit. Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
I planted one tree and it was for the last like 50k XP, and that was it.
oh, see, back in my day, 99. If you saw someone with 99 farming, you were like, that is a man of commitment and sheer will. And, whereas now it's like dinosaurs, yeah, dinosaurs, dragons, yeah, dragons, nice,
Hmm.
cool. And yeah, trees are just. I mean, trees are obviously still a thing because like 99 to 120, I think is trees because you just can't get enough XP from the others. But
Yeah.
still the pain. Oh man, I missed out on that player owned farm stuff. I barely abused it because I was like, oh, this will be around forever at this obscene XP rates, and it wasn't. And I was like, I wish I'd abused this because a
I
lot of
mean,
my friends were like 120 farming, but when I was like 105, just like, oh,
I guess it's kind of like Hunter as well, because obviously Hunter had that insane XP rate at one point where it was like over a mil an hour, and then they nerfed that to a bit more of a
yeah,
reasonable state.
yeah. I mean, it's hard when you're balancing games where like progression is fundamental, right?
Mm.
Like if they release this thing that's a million XP an hour and then they nerf it to 300k, it kind of invalidates the people who had already got it and the people who then got it after. But the game has to do it, right? They have to constantly,
Yeah.
and also like MMOs have to grow and change. So like I see a lot of people like complain that like skills have become easier and stuff and like invalid or like back in my day, thieving took ages, and now you can safe crack. And it's like, well, I see your point, right? Because it kind of sucks that you might have 99 thieving and it's no longer an achievement because you just safe crack. But at the same time, like I'd rather people be playing the game and finding it easier to get to the levels for the content they want, and especially now.
I guess especially as the content is
Oh,
focused at end game a lot of the time, the stuff that comes out. Orphan is level
yeah, right.
90 plus. Essence of
Mhm.
Finality is very, pretty.
Yeah.
You got to have done quite a lot of stuff to get up to that.
Yeah, 100%, and that's great. I mean, put more endgame stuff in and make getting to endgame easier. And
Easier,
also,
yeah.
like gaming is faster now than it was back
Mm.
then. I mean, like there's things that like people used to like wait and like pug, right? Like find a group, like finding a group to do a boss with. People used to wait like hours. I remember, people who used to play WoW used to wait hours for raids, or like people in RS. We had to hop worlds if like General Grador was full. Do you think I would do that now? No chance. There's just absolutely not. Am I going to waste 40 minutes of my time trying to find a world free so that I can do a boss with some friends? Because it's just I don't have the time now. Like people are busy and people expect a lot more like speed from their gaming experience. So the same is true of like skilling. Like my friends who have just got into the game, like I took them to I ran through I token farmed ED1 with them. So they've nerfed ED1 getting combat XP, but you still get 5,000 tokens for killing the mini bosses, as long as you do like 1 damage to it, or I guess there's like 1/100th damage to it, or whatever. And like so they got Charming Imp in an hour, both of them. They're like combat level 60, and they got Charming Imp in an hour because I just ran through it. And the only reason I did that to them is because it's a quality of life change. Because picking up charms is disgusting. So I was like, I'm going to get you these, and then they also got bone. When they've discovered what the bone crusher was, we then had to go back and do that, which was fun. But we farmed that, and it's like I wanted them to have an easier 99 summoning experience because picking up charms is horrible. So we went and rushed through it. And people who have, people might say, "Oh, that's not the correct way to do it," or whatever. But like, that's the
it's the way you want to do it.
About adapting and figuring that stuff out, and playing the game how you want, and like it's fast now. Games are faster. Like if maxing took 4 years or whatever, like it used to, there'd be a lot less players playing RuneScape. I can tell you, because it just would be. But like, oh,
now the thing is, we say that, and then you look at old school's numbers.
Yeah, true.
And it's still really popular. So it's.
But then old school's content is based differently. I think, as in, like, it's the emphasis is different.
It's not on 99s. It's on like 60 to 80.
Yeah, there's a lot of mid-range content. I think, and whereas RS3 like has quests with like 80s in their skill requirements and stuff, and the highest tier of weapons is well into the 90s, or I guess not well into the 90s, 1992, but and all these bosses where like the recommended combat level is 120. But no one with 120 combat level goes there. Like Rots is a good example of like if you don't go to Rots with very good gear and Zerkoras and overloads and things like this, you're just going to get absolutely smashed. So, like, yes, you could probably get a kill as 4 120s after 4-minute kill, and it would take ages and be horrible and use all your food and it'd be grim. But like, no one's doing that. No one does that. No. So, yeah, and I think that the game is just paced differently. And also, they're learning about like interactive skilling, right? So like Big Game Hunter was a good example of that, and like the way archaeology works, where you can move your sprites and constantly, I don't know, solve mysteries and stuff. It's a bit more interesting than just like sitting there chopping down a tree, and I think that's a better way to go. I think just because those who do have the time to commit an energy to commit to get skilling done, they can skill, and then those that don't have the time, don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, they could AFK it whenever. Yeah,
that's the dream. That's what I do.
Well, we ended up talking about RuneScape for over an hour there.
What a
flies past, doesn't it? There's so much to talk about.
Always.
But I feel like we'll bring it to an end. Is there anyone that you'd like to shout out, or anything in particular you want to?
Lord. Thanks, Mum. No. No. I mean, I don't think there's anyone I want to shout out in particular. I mean, I'd like to, obviously everyone I've played RuneScape with for however many years I've been playing, big thank you. And the people who have I guess the people who have taught me PVM, like I'm not going to name them all, but like in general over the years have just taken me to bosses, even though I've been garbage, and they've just taught me the way. And then I try and embody that in how I teach PVM. So a big thank you to everyone who sort of actually puts the time into to help other people learn and grow, and sort of spends their time and energy giving back to others. It's pretty solid. And anyone who's interested in competitive PVM events, hit me up so we can get some of the magic happening. Yeah,
get you casting it, shall we?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, of course. I mean, fundamentally, absolutely. Part of it is a selfish reason, because I want to be able to like commentate RuneScape PVM and the finesse of it, because it is very nice. It's a beautiful art, I've got to say. Yeah. So that's about it.
All right, lovely. Thanks so much for coming on. And
cheers. Thank you.
I hope everyone that's been watching has enjoyed. And till next time, I guess, stay safe.